Hello and good afternoon, pre-algebra. This video is going to be on PO56, excuse me, which is finding a part, a whole, or a percentage using an equation or a proportion. This is the real life context of percentages. We've already seen a little bit of that with our percent of increase and decrease, where you mark something up or you have a sale and you decrease the price. But most of the questions in PO56, as we kind of scroll down a little bit here, are going to be word problems. Okay, 2 pages of them actually. My goodness! And the reason why they're all word problems is because usually when you come across a situation where you want to use a percentage, the equation just doesn't appear in front of you magically, right? You have to kind of figure out, okay, what do I have? What information do I have? And what information do I want to find? Which is really what algebra is all about. What do you know? And then what do you need to do to find out what you want to find? So what we're going to focus on today are percent questions containing a part, a whole, and a percent. And we're going to practice finding each of those 3 when we're given the other 2. So the variables and the symbols that I'm going to use here, the part is represented by the variable p, the whole is represented by the variable w, and the percent is represented by the percentage symbol. Okay? And so the first task here is to be able to identify given a situation, and we're going to start with kind of just numbers here, but what is the part, what is the whole, what is the percent? And if you remember that a part is a percentage of the whole. A part is a percentage of the whole. That's going to be kind of your key phrase here. So when we look at 72 is 90% of 80, and we think a part is a percentage of the whole, 72 is a percentage of 80. 72 is a part of 80. So 72 would be the p variable, or the part, right? The percentage is pretty easy to identify because it's got the percentage symbol. And 80 would be our w, or our whole. 72 is a percentage of 80. 72 is a part of the whole. Okay? The next one, 16% of 30 is 4.8. 16% of 30 is 4.8. This got kind of rearranged a little bit here. Okay? We can still think of a part as a percent of a whole. A percent of 30 is 4.8. A percentage of the whole is the part. Kind of a little math hack here. When you find that word of, what follows is usually, almost always, the whole. So if you can find that word of 30, of the whole, 30 is going to be our whole. And the word is associated with the part, right? Here the word is came after the part. Here the word is comes before the part. But if you can identify the percentage, which again should be relatively easy because that's got the percentage symbol, and you find that word of and look at what comes after that, well, if you only have one thing left, it's going to be the part. Okay? So 4.8 is 16% of 30. 16% of 30 is 4.8. This last one, set up as a fraction. Okay? Well, we have this as a fraction, and there's no percentage symbol, but remember what percentage means. Something out of 100. So that 80 hundredths, or 80 out of 100, is the value for 80%. And so even though there's no percentage symbol, understanding that meaning of a fraction of something over 100, we can identify, okay, that's going to be our percent. I also don't see any words is or of, okay? But 20 out of 25, remember this fraction bar? One way to define it is out of. 20 out of 25. 25 follows that word of. That's going to be our whole. 20 is what's left. That's going to be our part. If you think when you get a test score, 20 out of 25, 20 represents the part of the test you got right. 25 represents the whole of the test. Okay? So, identify part, whole, percentage. Keywords to look for: of is associated with the whole, is associated with the part, and the percentage symbol is your percent. So, what do we do with this stuff? Okay, once you identify the part, the whole, and the percent, and realize what you're trying to find, you can set this up two different ways. You can set it up using a proportion, which is going to look like part, write that a little bit cleaner there, part over whole equals your percentage over 100. This is kind of abbreviated to be P over W equals percent over 100. Okay? Or the equation, this one actually correlates very well with the phrase that I brought up at the beginning of the lesson. A part is a percent of a whole. A part is a percent of a whole. Remember that word of can mean that you're multiplying. So part equals percent times whole. This can be kind of shortened up to be P equals percent times W. Okay, P equals percent times W. The difference between these two, obviously, one's more of a proportion, one's more of a straight up equation. Proportion represents percentage as a fraction, thus that over 100 piece. The equation represents percentage as a decimal. So when you plug these percentages in, whether you're using the proportion or the equation method, you need to keep in mind, is this going in as a fraction or as a decimal? So we will go over a few examples here. These are notes that you should jot down yourself. What number is 35% of 70? First of all, we need to figure out, what are we solving for? What do we know? What do we want to find out? Well, the percentage symbol allows me to easily identify that as the percent. And that word of clues me into what the whole is, right? Of 70 of our whole. What number is a percentage of the whole? This what we're solving, this is going to be our part. Okay? So using the proportion method, which is P over W equals percent over 100, we're going to plug in what we know. Well, we don't know the part. That's what we're ultimately solving for. So we're going to keep that as P. But we know the whole, 70. And we know that it is 35%. Okay? And since 35 over 100 is the percentage, right? That is the percentage written as a fraction. I don't need to put that percent symbol after 35 when I plug it in there. So we have a proportion. And based on what we talked about before, how do we solve a proportion? We could use scale factor, we could use equivalent fractions, we could use cross products, and that's actually what I'm going to use here. Okay? So using cross products, we know that 70 times 35 equals 100 times P. So 70 times 35 equals 100 times P. 70 times 35, pull out a calculator for that. That gives us 2,450. To isolate the variable, we're going to divide both sides by 100. And we get 24.5 is our value for the part. Okay? I kind of went into my equation section there. But now using the equation, P equals percent times whole, well, we don't know what the part is. That's what we're solving for. So we're going to keep that as the variable. 35% in this case gets written as a decimal, 0.35 times 70, which is our whole. And the nice part about this is that the variable is already isolated, right? P is already by itself. P is equal to 0.35 times 70. So in my calculator, all I have to do is take 0.35 times 70, and I get 24.5 as an answer. And because these two solutions match, I know I'm in business. I know that I'm right. Okay? If you need to get these notes down, I'm going to erase them to give me enough room for the next ones. If you need them, then pause the video quick and jot them down. Otherwise, away they go. Okay, 48 is what percent of 120? First, identify the pieces. 48 is our part. What percent? That's what we're solving for. I see the word of, and what comes after is our whole. So 48 is what percent of 120? Using the proportion method, P over W. I know what the part is. I know what the whole is. I'm looking to solve for the percentage. Okay. Again, cross products for this works great. Okay. 48 times 100 equals 120 times our percent. 48 times 100 equals 120 times our percent. 48 times 100 is 4,800. To get the percentage by itself, divide both sides by 120. And we get 40 as the percent. Using the equation method, P equals percent times W. Our part is 48. So 48 equals our percent times our whole, which we know, 120. Now this time, our variable isn't by itself, like it was the last time. There is a one-step equation that we need to solve here. We need to get that percent by itself. So using opposite operations, since we are multiplying our percentage by 120, to undo that, we are going to divide by 120. And 48 divided by 120 is 0.4. Okay. Now you might be thinking, oh, wait a minute here. 40, like we got in the first one, and 0.4 are different. They're not the same. Shouldn't they be the same? Yes, they should. What we have to remember here is with the equation, this gives us the percent as a decimal. So our final step would be to convert this 0.4 to a percentage, and 0.4 as a percentage is 40%. So in fact, they are the same value. Last one here, 18 is 25% of what number? This time we're given the part, we're given the percent. What follows the word of is our whole. That's what we're solving for. So using proportions, P over W, we know what the part is. We're solving for W, equals 25 over 100. And again, since that 25 over 100 is a fraction, it's a percentage, I don't have to put that percentage symbol in there. Since we have a proportion, cross products works great. 18 times 100 equals 25 times W. Eighteen times 100 is 1,800. Equals 25 times W. Again, we have to solve for W, so using opposite operations, 1,800 divided by 25 is 72, and 72 is our whole, okay? Meaning that if you get a test back and you see that you got 18 out of something, but that something was a little bit smudged, right? But you know that your percentage is 25%, maybe your teacher told you that or Educate said it or something like that, you could use this to figure out how many points are on the test. 18 points is 25% of what whole? 72. It means that you got 18 out of 72 on that test. Using the equation, P equals percent times W. Again, we know what the part is. We know the percent is 25%. We're going to write that as a decimal. And we're solving for W. Okay. To get W by itself, since we're multiplying it by 0.25, we have to divide both sides by 0.25. And 18 divided by 0.25 is 72, which equals W, the same 72 we got using the proportions method. Okay. So in class tomorrow, we are going to jump straight in to the word problems here, and we will go over a couple together, okay, just to kind of get yourself familiar with identifying the part, the whole, the percent from a word problem. But once you identify those three pieces, you can kind of break it down to what we have here. Okay, you've got the proportion method, you've got the equation method, you know where the variables are, you can plug them in, and then you've got either cross products or opposite operations with a one-step equation to solve. Okay, so that wraps it up for today. We'll pick this up tomorrow in class. Have a great day. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.